motherfucker! Why are you bleeding rolling? Lightweight!
Yes, there are no absolutes. A lot of people will try and say, oh, well, full range of motion is the only way to train, or, oh, I mean, if you do this exercise, you have to do it this way, or, oh, this is this and this is that. You can't really, you got to find out what works for you and just go with it, you know? Well, like Brian was talking about, when I used to always be so focused on going so heavy all the time, because I started getting caught up in this bravado, is what I learned from Dr. Squat, Fred Hadfield. This is a man that used to squat 1,000 in a blast suit, but he used to write programming for bodybuilders. He used to train Lee Haney. Lee Haney didn't give a shit about what he 1-rep maxed, and he had one of the best physiques of all time. It's different when you train as a bodybuilder. You have to learn how to find your way and think outside the box. If you don't take any risks, you might as well not walk down the street either. But as I've learned over the years, being 41 years old, I wouldn't have been able to last as long as I was if I didn't start thinking more unorthodox and outside the box of there's not a right or wrong way. Like Brian Buchanan used to do half pull-ups and he had a huge back, and he'd tell Lee, if it moves, it's a rep. And Lee's like, well, shit, look at his back, it works for him. You know, so like Lee, you know, he could do more time under tension and squeezing, but his levers were short, so he had shorter arms. But it worked, you know. You kind of got to find your own style and roll with it, you know.
We're going to do what you call a trap bar deadlift. Josh had me do, Bryant, hex bar deadlifts last time, which is a little bit higher deficit. The reason the trap bar and the hex bar work really good for me, it's more of a neutral hybrid squat position too, so you can use your legs some too with your back. And the reason I love this movement is after getting arms developed over the years, you don't keep your arms straight, you can tear your bicep. So a lot of bodybuilders always wear straps for safety precaution. I still like to work my grip in the beginning. I'm gonna do a technique kind of like I've seen Mike O'Hearn do, and that guy's been around for years and looks like $1 million. What I'm gonna do is start moving up the weight, but I'm only gonna do 1 rep. Start with 135, then add a plate. 225, 315, 405, 495, or 500. I think the bar's about 50 because it's got the top handle on it. The reason I do that is just touch it for one, is to let the nervous system warm up and save gas. You don't want to waste your energy on warm-up sets. Then when I want to put 600 on there and do some reps with it, the whole idea is to be careful and not bounce the weight. Sometimes I get carried away and bounce the weight, but for longevity reasons, for your back and safety precaution, you always want to reset when you pull and not bounce it. Good stance for powerlifters, bodybuilders. One thing I learned from Fred Hatfield, he would even have you jump. You had to jump off of something and land. Like say if I was from here, something that could hold me, and you however your feet would land, that should be your stance when you deadlift. Same thing if you're trying to do a standing vertical leap to get explosive. Some people want to stand like this, here, not without a step, but just standing and jumping as high as you can because you want to develop explosion. For me, also the stance because of the levers. As a power lifter and bodybuilder, you're built different. It's more about muscle and tension as a bodybuilder, but it doesn't mean you can't use the same principles to be careful. Because you get injured, you know, you're out of the game for 4 months, it's like no fun. And then you got to do PT and then start over again. So the whole thing is like, the idea is to be able to do this shit and make it look fucking easy. Mass with class. Okay, so now we did the work sets of just working up. 135, 225, 315, 405, right at 500. I think the hex is about 50. You know, we turned it into a trap bar. Now the importance of accessories. It's the work set. You have to be a little bit more advanced to do 500 without a weight belt. Did that to warm up. Now we're gonna do a work set. This is probably around like 590, closer to 600 pounds. I'm gonna wear the weight belt. This is with the GASP belt. Protected my back over the years, done a great job. Really good item if you're looking for accessories. You want to wear wrist straps because you're pulling for reps. Reason being, it helps keep your arms straight. You don't have to worry about gripping the weight as much. You You start pulling your arms in, that's how you tear a bicep. So we're going for safety precaution, show horse. If you're a power lifter, then you want to get used to not using straps, but not trying to power lift, I'm trying to bodybuild.
I wait!
I normally do thing after I had messed up my right tricep, doing a heavy pull over here. I was getting ready for North Americans. And unfortunately, it took 2 years to rehab and PT the tricep, work with the new fit, and I was able to come back and re-earn my pro card in 2020 at the Universe. I used to always get so focused on being a strength athlete and how strong I was, getting up to 365, overhead pressing it seated, but it's bravado. That's great for the ego. Bodybuilding is also about isolation, visualization, working the muscle from the inside and out. So what I'll do a lot on my chest is a lot more machine work, pump and protect. When it comes to heavier pressing, stick with the incline, maybe split machine in 315 and do sets of 15 and just squeeze. Same thing here on shoulders, what I do. I like on chest, the pre-exhausted chest, you start with a fly and then go to a press. I like to start with dumbbell laterals, but I like to do them very strict. It takes tension off because you rest them here. The whole idea is to not use as much momentum. I don't have anything against power building. It obviously works for Branch and Johnny, but this way worked for me. And I remember my old training partner, Lee Priest, had really good DELT development, and he would do them this way. So everything I've ever replicated that he did, for whatever reason, worked for me. I know everybody's different, but the guy did something right. He was in the pages of the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia, and probably one of the most well-built, shorter bodybuilders. At 5'5", he could carry 200 shredded. So, like I say, getting to train with him, everything he ever called me and taught me always seemed to work. So this is how I like to do my delts. I started with single laterals, lighter, 30s, 20s, 40s, 10 each side. Now what I'm going to try is a heavier set with 60s, but try and do them strict. Go for a goal of like 8 to 10. Next exercise is called the Meadow Row. Fortunately, he passed away this past week, one of my iron brothers, John Meadows. I like to use it in place of dumbbell rows. It's really innovative and different. You lean over on like a chest supported row, and you kind of get the same motion as a dumbbell row, but you're going across your body. John's a legend, so it's kind of like giving him the hat tip when I see him on the other side someday. Yeah, it's overhand instead of inside grip. And that's the thing about John. I was saying about how unorthodox he is. Like, even that rear delt shoulder swing, 6 inches apart, you feel huge blood pump in your rear delts. You don't even have to do a full range of motion. You do it on even laterals, partials. There's no right or wrong way to do stuff. You have to think outside the box. Everybody talks about training to a full range of motion. If that was the case, then how come every powerlifter who can squat 800 pounds sometimes has skinny fucking legs? It doesn't matter. It's, you figure out what works for you. Brian Buchanan used to tell Lee Priest, if it moves, it's a rep. He would do partial pull-ups with his own body weight, and he had a huge back. figure it out. I don't know. Rear deltoid shoulder swing. I learned it from John Meadows. Josh Bryant likes to put them in the programming, but sometimes I'll even superset face pulls with them with the rope. But it works your rear deltoids. You try to hold the dumbbells inside, it's harder to see. We did the first set like this, but you can't get as good of a range of motion, so you hold the dumbbells, just rock them. Set to 20, it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but it pumps blood in your rear delts and gives you a really good pump. For the rear delts, you gotta have developed all three heads. Medial, we started with the dumbbell laterals, then we did the rear delt with the rear delt shoulder swings. Another one I like to add also is bent cable laterals to hit rear delt. Then we're gonna also do anterior delt, where we hold just a plate, 100-pound plate, seated plate raise. See Branch do them all the time, it's one of my faves. Yeah, even though it's based off momentum, it's like what I used to say, that Lee Priest taught me from Brian Buchanan, if it moves, it's a rep. He couldn't argue with him because the guy was developed. Lee was very strict. He'd do those dumbbell laterals like I did, where you hold them at your side. It may take less tension off the muscle because you're at a dead stop rest, but look at like a rest pause ham curl John Meadows used to do. He'd let the weight totally reset and pull it, or a pendulum row. Everybody's like, dude, but you're totally resting the weight at the bottom, but you can't use any momentum either. So it really takes the movement intention and muscle intention and makes everything work kind of flow together. So like I say, you can't, there are no absolutes. You figure out what works for you. It's kind of like how Branch does it. It's just seated, but gives me the ability to go heavy. But if I do swing a little bit, it's still controlled. When I get too carried away with those dumbbells, just trying to somewhat control chaos. Mobile, agile, hostile, not kind of speed limit 65, you might go 70. Right. Don't rev that engine too much. Interior delts. You got the medial, the anterior, the rear. I used to always think that overhead press was your bread and butter. You can build your delts more from isolation movements. You can do more unilateral each side, so it gives you the ability to use more momentum. Here it kind of keeps you more boxed in. So anything that can kind of keep me in check, where I'm not getting out of control, and kind of stay inside my lane, you know? Because it's like, I get a little bit too much bravado going sometimes and want to lift a lot of weight, but it's not always about how much you lift, it's how you lift it.
What I enjoy about bodybuilding is learning the discipline of being able to diet and being able to follow a plan and not veering off. But like I say, you know, when you have a goal, you still got to have a clear vision and the long-term goal of what you're trying to accomplish. Because if you're trying to do too many different things and some of them are contraindicating, you know, like I think you saw Johnny Jackson talk about it. It was harder for him to build his legs because he tore both his quads. Why? He was trying to squat 800 and something pounds in a blast suit. Yeah, I've done that on a Swiss bar and looked great on camera for Instagram and I look like Super Dick. But guess what? The next day I was walking around and I gave myself hemorrhoids. As I did it knee wraps and I was wearing a belt. It's like, God, it's so strong. I mean, yeah, that's great, but did it help build my quads? Probably not. You know, I could probably get more out of just doing sets of 10 or 12 with 415 or 500 and just squeezing and feeling the muscle work, you know, or putting a heavier weight on a hack squat where there's a predetermined path of motion going down and sinking and then coming up and wearing knee wraps and a belt and still being careful. But like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to be a power lifter? Because that's movement intention, and bodybuilding is muscle intention. It's visualization, mind-muscle connection, and it's building the whole body, making it sturdy like a house, and being able to make it last over years. Anybody can be a flash in the pan and look good when they're 20, 25, but are they gonna still be able to last? What about when they're 35, 40? The whole idea is to look at somebody even when they're 50 and be like, not what happened, but God, that guy still looks good. He still kept at it.